From the Maple View Animal Hospital studios, this is the WHTC Morning News with Gary Stevens and Peg McNichol on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
And we welcome you back to the WHTC Morning News for this Thursday, February 4th. Thursday mornings, we have a chance to catch up with what is going on in Washington with one of the two men who represent the Lakeshore. In the U.S. House, he is six-term Republican Bill Huizenga of R-Zeeland. He joins us via the Zoom connection. Bill, good morning and welcome back to WHTC.
Hey, good morning, Gary, and thanks for accommodating me a little earlier this morning. Today was supposed to be the National Prayer Breakfast. That's that annual gathering where we all come together. The president would join us usually at a big ballroom in Washington, D.C. It's all virtual this year, with one exception. We are getting members of Congress are getting together this morning. And so we're going to be doing that on a bipartisan basis. And frankly, if ever we needed it, now would be the time. So getting Republicans and Democrats together and exploring our faith and praising God. So we need that healing. I can tell you that.
Let me ask you a blunt question, Bill. After what happened literally a month ago, are you seeing, hey, let's tone everything down and let's start working together a little bit more? Is that more of a unified spirit you're seeing in Congress, or are still the trench warfare, the political trench warfare, the rule in Washington right now?
It's still political trench warfare for the most part. I think that that is an issue that a number of us are having a discussion about. And Gary, we've talked about this over the years. It isn't the backbenchers. It isn't the workhorses, frankly, that are on TV and on talk radio. It's the show horses, not the workhorses, typically, that are out there, and they're the ones sort of fanning a lot of the flames. There's a lot of us a little more behind the scenes that are trying to actually work and get the job done that needs to be done. But I got to tell you, it's a tough environment right now, and that's something that we had a dinner with a small group of us last night that are connected in with the Bible study and the National Prayer Group, and on a bipartisan basis. I mean, we're acknowledging it, we know it. And we're trying to work through it. There's just some very high tensions, and it's getting down to the point where, some people are saying, well, I'm not sure that so-and-so is going to be accepted as a leader within this, and so-and-so is not going to be able to, and this is on both sides. So look, we got a lot of healing to do as a country. We got a lot of healing to do as an institution. I've said this before. I'm afraid that some of the decisions that are being made by House leadership, most specifically Speaker Pelosi, are not healing. It's not helping that healing process. It's just spurring that on. And we're gonna see this with the Democrats moving ahead with a unprecedented, like literally never in the history of Congress. They're going to be moving ahead with a bill that's going to be expelling a Republican off of their committees, and there's some who want to expel her out of Congress. And this has not been done ever. I know our leader, Kevin McCarthy, told Steny Hoyer at one point, the precedent that they're setting right now literally means if the Republicans get back into power, when the Republicans get back into power, because that always is part of the cycle, that means the Republicans could choose every single Democrat's committees and whether they even serve on a committee. And this is not how we are going to be moving forward as a country, and it's a sad situation. But again, tensions are high. We've talked about the metal detectors that have been installed, and all these other things just are really symbols of a lack of trust of what's going on.
You mentioned the lack of trust, but specifically, let's touch upon the couple of things you just mentioned. Should the freshman, I believe she's a freshman Republican from Georgia, be disciplined for her thoughts and her beliefs, or, should be, as you mentioned, it could be a dangerous precedent in that regard?
So I didn't really know her, don't really know her. You're talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I have read through media accounts. I haven't actually gotten on her Twitter account and those kinds of things, but the media accounts are very disturbing, distasteful. She addressed this at about a 5-hour conference that we had, mostly around Liz Cheney and what was going to be happening. And maybe we can talk a little bit about that. Liz Cheney, at the end of the day, retained her position in elected leadership by more than a 2-to-1 basis. But the freshman, she is a freshman, Marjorie Taylor Greene, addressed the group and said, "Look, well, I wish she would say what in public what she said and what was our private meeting." But she disavowed any of this QAnon connection. She said she discovered lots of mistruths in what had been going on. She disavowed that, apologized to the conference, and is hoping to move on. And I think that as a whole, that apology was accepted, that explanation was accepted, and Gary, if we're going to start doing this, I've got a few candidates on the other side of the aisle who have said some pretty controversial stuff, like some people flew a plane into some buildings in New York, and questioning whether that actually happened and whether that was somehow government related. And I mean, there's some pretty nasty stuff that's been put out on the internet and retweeted by people on both sides of the aisle. And again, the question is what kind of steps are we going to take moving forward? And if this behavior continues and doing those kinds of things, then that's a very different conversation. But at this point, I think we all need to show a little grace, accept some apologies on all sides, and start moving forward.
The Liz Cheney vote, you were with the majority, I assume, on that, or did you say maybe not?
No, I'm not going to go into the internal workings of this, but I will tell you this: that Liz asked for the vote, and she got it. We had a thorough airing. I mean, it started at 4:00 and we weren't done till almost 9:00, having this conversation as a family. It was a healthy one. It was reasonably cordial. It was blunt. But it was a good one. I think it was the right action to clear the air and to make sure that not just Liz, but that everybody internally knew that people had her back and support. And when you have a vote of conscience, that's okay. Personally, for me, and I expressed this to her on a personal basis, I wish she had handled it very differently. But again, offering some understanding and grace to people has got to be part of what we're talking about, at least. And that was an internal Republican Party discussion that we had yesterday.
We're chatting with R-Zeeland Congressman Bill Huizenga. One more thing about what we were discussing earlier about some of the political trench warfare, dealing with the what happened in terms of security, and of course you mentioned about earlier about having to go around the security at the Capitol because of the timing situation. Now there are new fines. They seem to be a little steep, Bill. I don't know about this. It's almost as if it's a punitive situation more than anything else.
It is punitive, and let's talk about that. I know I'd gotten some criticism because I at one point was nearly missing a vote went through the metal detector, set the metal detector off, and kept going to vote. I and others, and I'll speak for myself, I wanted to make a point on this as well, that I do believe that the speaker cannot just arbitrarily make decisions like this. We now have a rule. I voted against the rule, but we now actually have a formal rule that is setting this up. I still am not sure that it's constitutional or legal, but I also was part of a conversation where I heard my Democrat colleagues, frustratingly to me, express that they felt endangered by their Republican colleagues. There were some that have expressed that they believe that Republicans are intentionally taking weapons onto the floor, storing them up, and are going to use those weapons against their colleagues. I know that it's ludicrous and I know that it's false, but one of the things that I'm trying to do to help build and repair this institution is I'm going to adhere to that rule, as dumb as I think it is, and potentially unconstitutional as it is. And during this very tense time, if this is going to make my Democrat colleagues feel better about coming to the House floor, because we've already, we've had this conversation about our remote voting and proxy voting and all this other things, which I also think is illegal and unconstitutional, but nonetheless, then I'm willing to take that step. This is one, again, unprecedented. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you think about it in context, but nonetheless, it's a formal rule now. It's probably going to get challenged. I mean, the Constitution is very clear. They cannot actually dock our pay, because the founding fathers knew that that would become a weapon, a political weapon, if they didn't do this. So there's a lot of layers to this. But one of the small things, it's a small issue, but one of the small things I am doing is making sure that I'm going through this process to try to, frankly, help my colleagues who are afraid and scared feel better about what we're trying to do on the House floor.
One final thing, and even though we're trying to repair some of the political rifts that have been created, there is still, to a certain extent, Bill, Democrats see life one way, Republicans see life another way. And one of the core things that usually splits the two sides is money, spending money. One side says, let's spend. The other says, let's be prudent about it. And you had an amendment yesterday in a committee about that, basically being, to me, it looks like it was a case of, okay, if we're going to spend, let's make sure everything stays balanced. And that didn't really have, that might not go far right now in this House.
No, we're spending every dime that we can scrounge up from future generations too, I might add. Gary, there's still philosophical differences between the parties, and my amendment yesterday in our committee was saying that if we in the Financial Services Committee are going to initiate a new spending program, and frankly, Maxine Waters, our chair Waters, has proposed $100 billion housing project, program, $100 billion. My amendment said, if we're going to spend over $10 million, because in the real world, $10 million is a lot of money. Out here, it's not. But in the real world, $10 million is a lot of money. But if we're going to spend over $10 million, then we need to find an offset. We need to say, okay, that's a good idea, and we need to pursue that. But that means we're going to have to give something up over in this category or in this program. That's what we have to do every single day around our kitchen table. It's what every small business owner has to do. It's what every single large business owner has to do. Math is math, and you've got to work that out. So, in addition to life issues and a lot of other things, that idea, that notion that we're just going to be able to just pile on more debt to sort of save the country is I think, an underlying issue. last night we voted on a budget, they call it budget reconciliation. 2 Democrats actually joined all of the Republicans to vote against this. But it takes a simple majority here in the House. It's moving over to the Senate. And that is going to be now, instead of a 60 vote threshold, it's going to be that 50-50 vote with Kamala Harris supplying the tiebreaker. That is how President Biden is planning on moving forward with his nearly $2 trillion additional spending plan for quote unquote COVID. And I use air quotes because it is every pet project and every pet program under the sun, including a $15 minimum wage increase, completely outside any of the processes that we've ever used before to do this. And that is also a very, very dangerous precedent in my estimation. So we're gonna hold on to your wallets, folks. It's coming.
He is Congressman Bill Huizenga, joins us Thursday mornings to talk about what's going on in Washington. Bill, as always, thank you very much for your time and your thoughts, and we look forward to chatting with you again next Thursday morning if all goes well.
Sounds good, Gary. Thanks. Talk to you soon.
Thank you very much, Bill Huizenga, 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.